Let's expand this discussion. Joining us now is Stephen Hayes, International Affairs Analyst. Pleasure having you again with us today.
Thank you. It's good to see you again.
Right. So the Brussels summit has seen the UK and other Ukraine allies pledge 21 billion euros in new military support for Kyiv. This is what the US President Donald Trump wanted, isn't it?
Well, certainly he wants Europe to put in more support for Ukraine as well as for their own military. 21 billion sounds like a large amount. It's probably a lot more is still needed to protect and buttress Ukraine. But yes, I mean, it's a step forward. It is what Trump says that he has wanted. But a lot of that aid is going to depend on buying the military equipment that they need is going to be U.S. military equipment. So again, that's another question coming up.
And why does it seem like the UE is now taking the lead from America in providing military aid to Ukraine despite U.S. efforts to broker a ceasefire? Perhaps they don't trust the unpredictability of the team led by Donald Trump.
Well, it seems that way because that's the reality. It is that way. I think that they've lost confidence in the U.S. Reliability to work with Europe, particularly Western Europe. And I think that's a very troubling trend. And they've got now forced to look at how do we protect ourselves, since the issue of Ukraine really is a European issue. If Ukraine goes, most of the Europeans feel that puts the rest of Europe much more in peril. So it is a reality that they need to step forward and put in more on their own. And they are right now the major support, because Trump has made it very clear, President Trump has made it very clear that he is not going to support Ukraine in the way the U.S. has in the past.
And Mr. Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, is to meet President Vladimir Putin. This has been confirmed by the Kremlin after much speculations. I believe this is the third meeting since February. Could this bring about a major breakthrough?
Well, it could, and it could not, of course, too. We just don't know what the deals are going to be. Witkoff is there not simply for Ukraine. He's also there to talk about U.S.-Russia relations. So how that goes will also, I think, affect Ukraine. For instance, if Russia and the U.S. become closer, that's going to put far more pressure on Zelensky and Ukraine to come to some agreement, but it's also going to make an agreement difficult from the Ukraine side, because it will look like any deal would favor Russia. So Witkoff, who is a seasoned diplomat, is in a very difficult position. He's got to balance the needs of Trump against the needs of Ukraine, and also work on the pressures of Russia. And then has to have the President Trump agree to where things are headed. So I think he's in a very difficult position.
Right. And last month, Ukraine said it was ready to accept a U.S. proposal for an initial 30-day ceasefire, but Russia has yet to make a decision on this. Is Vladimir Putin serious about a ceasefire and peace in Ukraine?
Well, right now, I don't think he's quite serious, because I think he thinks he's winning, and he would need to see that a ceasefire helps him more than it is Ukraine. I think it does help Ukraine a bit more at this stage if it could come to a ceasefire, because it gives them a chance to restock, and as the European representative said in the film right before this interview, after the ceasefire is declared, aid will be going in. So it's not necessarily in Putin's interest to support a ceasefire. It's only in his interest right now, and to the extent that he wants a stronger U.S.-Russia relationship. But if he thinks that Trump is already ready to agree with him, there's not a strong incentive to do so. So what will matter is as they agree and talk, what matters is whether they can come to an agreement that is important enough for Putin between U.S. and Russia to support a ceasefire with Ukraine.
Even with these meetings going on in Europe, the war, and of course the envoy that's in Russia. The war continues. Earlier this week, Ukrainian president said Chinese citizens are fighting for Russia in the war after 2 Chinese fighters were captured. This marks Kyiv's first official allegation that China was supplying Russia with manpower. Does this change the dynamics of the war?
Well, it changes it tremendously. If China is, in fact, much more directly involved in that, then that will put pressure on the U.S.-China relationship, which is already bad in the Pacific as well. And it also will put significant numbers on the Russia side. Russia supposedly has lost hundreds of thousands of troops in this war, and the fact that they would have almost endless support from North Korea and China would put enormous pressure, and does, I think, put enormous pressure on Ukraine. So again, that's going to have to be part of the formula, and that Witkoff is surely going to discuss that today as well. I would assume that China will probably deny that, but they haven't made any official statement to my knowledge yet, which is also telling. But if they are involved, it's going to change the dynamics very, very significantly.
All right, international affairs analyst Stephen Hayes, thank you again for your time.
Thank you. An honor as usual.
Well, the U.S. and Russia have announced another prisoner swap between both countries, the second such exchange since President Donald Trump returned to the White House, vowing to improve relations with the Kremlin and end the war in Ukraine. According to the deal negotiated by the country's intelligence agencies, Russia released Ksenia Karelina, and a dual Russian-American citizen who had been serving out a 12-year sentence in a maximum security prison colony. A native of Russia's Ural Mountains who later moved to Los Angeles, the 33-year-old ballet dancer was detained while visiting her parents in Russia in February last year. President Trump, speaking on her release, says he appreciates the ballerina who was released at the request of a very good friend.